Welcome to Oils in Modeling, the 18th installment of the learning series. This edition has everything to do with how to work with oil paints. In this video, we're going to focus on 2 chapters and 2 techniques as contained in the Oils in Modeling learning series, those being dust effects and streaking effects. In this demonstration, we're going to focus on Chapter 12 in the Oils in Modeling, the learning series from 𝘂𝗡 Interactive. In this episode, or this chapter, we're going to describe how to create dust effects. Now, these are the light and dusty effects you might get from driving over, well, say, a dusty road in summertime. For this demonstration, I'm going to veer just slightly from the chapter where I'll be using 2 colors of oil paints. I like my dust effects to have a little bit of variation, that is, a light color and a dark color. Now, in order to create these light dust effects, we first need to thin down our oil paints, and we'll do this with the odorless thinner. Now, the consistency here can vary depending on really your final usage, the effects you want to achieve. For this demonstration, I'd like some lighter dust effects, wind-blown dust if you will, that just collects around some of the surface details and high points. To recreate this type of effect, the paint needs to be thinned quite heavily. This allows the paints to flow freely around all the surface details. Once these paints are applied, now resist the temptation to immediately go back and start altering the surfaces. Allow these paints to dry for a little while. I'd suggest at least a half an hour before starting any sort of manipulation. Now that the paints have dried for maybe a half an hour to 45 minutes, I'll go back in with a clean, dry brush. And now it's time just to manipulate some of the edges. I'm just scooting the paints around just ever so slightly, just to get them to collect a little bit more aggressively in some of those corners and details. I've allowed this first layer of paint, the lighter color, to dry in place now for about an hour and a half, and this allows it to be set in place. It still can be manipulated, but at least it won't move around quite so much. Now I can add a second layer of paint. This is the darker color because, as I mentioned earlier, I prefer to have 2 colors of paints, a lighter and a darker color. That just increases the visual interest of my dust effects. One of the powerful characteristics of using oil paints is how one technique or one type of application process can easily flow into the next. In this case, our dust effects, well, they're already on the top surfaces. Now it's easy just to draw down some of these different colors that we've used for our dust effects along the hot sides of the hull, creating some streaking effects. Again, the same color paints, just drawing little small beads of color down the sides. Adding these streaks is the same process as adding the dust effects. We apply the color, let it set in place just to cure to the surface for a little while, and then come back with a soft brush and just blend out some of the tones. One thing to keep in mind when creating streaks down the sides of a hull such as this is to make sure that your streaks are vertical. That is, they run from top to bottom or bottom to top, and don't just wander around in a haphazard manner. And here we are, we have some dust effects and we have some streaks, all done with oil paints in just a very short period of time to great effect. Look towards the Oils in Modeling from the Learning series from 𝘂𝗡 Interactive for more helpful techniques and tips.